going to say anything
Yeah.
after you play just video.
Greetings, Twilight Struggle fans. We've got a special treat for you here today. Justin Abramson alongside Jim Haefele here. Jim, how are you doing?
I'm all right. Good to be here.
Thrilled to have you along. And so today we've got an Atlantic League game. Jim's going to be taking on Ted Livermore. This is a recorded game, so we'll play it back for you today. First, before I get to anything, I want to say thank you to J.R. Jones. J.R. Jones just hit me with his 27th consecutive Twitch subscription, courtesy of Jeff Bezos. So that's $2.37 in my bank account, courtesy of Jeff. So thank you to JR and Jeff for that. Now, moving along, before we get to the game, we have another special treat. I like saying special treat, folks. And that is a birthday tribute to another Atlantic League player we know well. And so I will go ahead and roll the tape here. And
hello to all my tens of followers out there. Pioneer Towel here for a cameo to wish a very special Twilight Struggle birthday to Jeff Watkins of Vienna, Virginia. Jeff, I know you're turning 45 today, but let's be real. The important, meaningful part of your life began last February when you met me at PresCon. It was truly a privilege to interact with you and my other adoring fans and mingle with the commoners a bit. And after you won the right to play against me, I think in a charity auction of some kind, I'm so glad we were able to play together in the Celebrity Exhibition game, the result of which has unfortunately been lost to time. But keep working hard, Jeff, and one day you too can make literally dozens of dollars every year streaming your favorite Cold War simulation strategy board game, just like me. Have a happy birthday, Jeff, and always remember to overprotect France.
all right, thank you very much for watching, and a happy birthday to Jeff. And I apologize to those of you watching. I did not give you the content warning / trigger warning that you were going to have to see my ugly mug on the screen for, I believe, the first time in the history of my channel. So sorry about that. I hope you weren't too traumatized. But without further ado, let's get to the Twilight Struggle, the reason you're all here. So let's pop up our game video here.
I'd like to just point out that is probably the first cameo for Twilight Struggle in history. And I'd like some credit for that.
Yes. Jim thought it would be a great idea to give Jeff a cameo for his birthday and from his favorite Twilight Struggle streamer, of which there are so many of us. And yes, you too can become rich and famous as the Twilight Struggle streamer. So we have the video now. We're going to be playing it at 1 1/4 speed. And so we'll be watching from Jim's side, but again, I want to thank Anton Scott, who is giving us the ARZ treatment. So at the top right corner, you will be able to see Ted's hand as well. So Jim, tell us what your thoughts were when you saw this opening hand.
I'm pretty happy with it. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward headline. Very, very little to think about here.
Yes, nice, easy defectors headline. Now, are you a 4-4-2 guy no matter what, or do you like to set up differently?
Why would I reveal that? I'm anxious enough already about the fact that I'm talking about my game in front of a bunch of other players. But I will lean towards a 4-4-2, barring good reasons otherwise, and in this case, didn't feel like there was any.
Yep, and that's how I feel too. Now, as a streamer, I kind of have a bit of a disadvantage in that regard. So I always go 4-4-2, even if maybe a 3-3-2 defector setup might make sense. People would know, I feel like, that something weird was going on if I set up 3-3-2.
I've read the Reddit threads about your strategy.
That's true.
This, right?
Of which there are many. Now, as much as I like your opening hand, Jim, I like Ted's even more.
Of course.
He's got Vietnam. He's got Purge. He's got a UN Marshal now. I assume going to go with Vietnam or Purge, and he's going to be very sad when he sees defectors.
Yeah, this was, for me, a total no-brainer. Of course, I had forgotten that he had 2 4s here. But, yeah, your guess is correct. I don't know how much to preview the things that I know he's going to do, but he played Vietnam.
Yep. So I like that play from Ted because he's got a couple of 2-ops, so it would be good to fill Vietnam. Now that he got that defected, I think I would just try the Iran coup if I were Ted. Ted's a pretty straightforward Iran coup guy. Okay, he hits the roll. All right, now what were you thinking here? I guess I would think Lebanon, Malaysia would be my thought.
That's exactly what I did. Yeah, and I wrestled with this. I'm a 2-op into Malaysia guy, which is not entirely common, I know, but I feel like there's this gap between a one-op into Malaysia is sort of an invitation, and a two-op is a, you sure about that?
Yes.
Flight, basically. So,
Yeah.
Other people might have done something differently, but I just feel like it's a riskier, it's, mathematically a much riskier coup. And when you're the U.S. and a successful coup of Malaysia happens, it really creates a lot of sadness.
It sure does. It sure does. Now, it would have been mitigated because you have duck in your hand, so you would have been able to go back. But Ted rolling a big number in Malaysia would be quite annoying for you.
Bad news. Yeah.
And speaking of Ted is in the chat. So that's
Hi, Ted.
Splinter Call there. So Ted, thank you for joining. And Ted just go ahead and put 2 in South Korea now. Oh, reaching for a big coup here.
I'm doing it. Yep.
Okay. Got to get your mill ops. Oh, and that's a huge number.
Yeah.
Okay, so also get the huge number off in Iran. Now you're in great position in Asia and forcing Ted to have to play decall here if he's got it, and we know he does not.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a risky coup there, but at the same time, I feel like since Ted did not move into West Asia, then the right thing to do is to take that chance.
Yep.
And it protects Malaysia.
Yep, so now you have the first crack at Pakistan with DEFCON at 3. You have the war in your hand, and Iran is at 4. Certainly Ted won't be cooing that back. So a UN of Marshall. This, I assume, will finish up taking South Korea and Iraq. Yeah, that makes sense. So get your presence in the Middle East. Stop the Dom block you off one way. Now we're looking at Thailand and or Pakistan here would be my thought. What are your thoughts on spacing here? You've got de Gaulle. Now, my preferred use of de Gaulle is to put it into the empty France and let it go to 3-1. Are you thinking about spacing it? What do you like here?
That was exactly my discussion, as always. And I saw if I'd known he had Truman, that would have been a quite easy decision. But obviously, I didn't know that. So I ultimately spaced de Gaulle.
Okay, so Ted goes to space first. Misses on the roll. You go to space. You also miss the roll. So
that will be a recurring theme.
Yes, my play would have been different, but okay. And
Fair
you're
enough.
probably instantly sad to see the Truman coup.
Yes.
So Truman gets out pretty much for free. And now we have 2 ops left. So what? Excuse me. We have 3 ops left. We're certainly not triggering the war. Are we going to go? We got to beef up Thailand.
Yep.
This makes sense. Are you really excited to lower DEFCON to 2 here? Or do you really want to use the 1 influence to get into Pakistan? What are you thinking?
I'm trying to recall what I did. Gosh, what did I do? There's so many plays in this game that I remember specifically. But I think I cooed here. I think I cooed.
Yeah, so that's a good play from
I
Ted.
there.
If I were Ted, I would have loved to have a 3-op for a West Germany poke and 1 into Afghanistan to get access to Pakistan with the war gone. That would have set up a couple of different threats. With de Gaulle gone, he's not getting access to France, barring a decall, which, interestingly, he draws. So Ted picks up Europe scoring, which I have to think is going to be his headline. I don't know that he'd want to decall at DEFCON 4, even with defectors gone. Your hand is significantly less good.
Yeah.
But you do pick up Middle East and Nasser, so Middle East certainly will be even at worst. And you do get CNS. Containment, also reasonable. Looks like that would be a 4 or 5 op containment.
Yeah, this was, I went with CNS here because I knew with Middle East and the need to, I'm looking at this now. See, I hate this because I'm looking at this now and I'm like, God damn it, all I can see is the plays that I fucked up. I probably should have played containment there.
Okay. So containment would have gotten you 1 with CIA, 1 with the EU, 1 with Nasser, 1 with SOCGov, presumably, although you're probably going to space SOCGovs anyway. So it would have been a 4-op containment.
Yeah.
Whereas you want to get CNS off. Now, I was a little surprised to see Ted headline decall, but perhaps, and not perhaps, he's almost certainly going to go into France here, which gives him Europe Dom.
Yes, that's the idea.
He could take the coup take a big old China card coup of Thailand, but that's gonna prompt you to fill France when he has Europe in his hand. So I have to think this is just an easy France take with NATO and then maybe 1 Lao. Oh, 1 Pakistan. That makes sense too. Okay, so you're in a little bit of a tough spot here. If you coup Pakistan, you're getting Dom scored on you.
Yes, which was the decision that I made. This felt like a pretty easy call to me because his Asia situation is so bad if I can successfully have this coup.
Yep.
And I'm willing to kind of eat Europe. Or no, I forgot. I did this first. That's right. I did this first in order to force him into ops in Turkey or elsewhere if he wanted to take Dom.
Okay, so you wanted to get So you want to stop Dom here, and you're going to take Lao to stop the Dom. Laos. Sorry. Yep. See, I keep it wrong. So Jim told me that it is Laos. The language and the people are Lao.
Yes. And the
country is Laos.
They say Lao, but we don't say like West Deutschland either. So,
we do not. We do not say West Deutschland. I don't, at least. Yeah. Okay, so Ted, I assume, will want to reestablish Dom, unless he wants to get super frisky and take a big old China card coup of Thailand. I would think he'd want to reestablish Dom by taking Pakistan, maybe moving into India. That would be my play, and a good one. Now it seems like it's coup time.
Yes.
Oh, and a huge number. Okay, that is very large.
My chat with Ted was quite fun during this game, I will say.
Ted is definitely
a fun player to play with for a lot of different reasons.
Yes. So far you have 2 6s on your coups, a huge 6 in Iran, and then another one in Pakistan. That anything but a 6, and Ted would have the opportunity at the very least to do a China card flip. Yeah. So that had to be a 6. So now Ted is in the position where he's got to take India here, I think, doesn't he? He's got to take India. The war is gone, but I think he's got to take India here. Now you, meantime, are out of ops, and you obviously can't give Nasser with Middle East in your hand, so you've got a 1-op play if you want it, or you can score.
I don't know whether to preview what I'm going to do here.
Yeah. Well, Ted, I assume, so Ted's going to play Warsaw, clearly. I think this has to go to India, which does not give Ted Dom. He could go 1 Vietnam to reestablish that Dom. He could also go 1 Israel to put a little pressure there. He could close off Algeria. Ted also need Milops. You do not. 2 India and 1 what else? Okay, going to go Turkey,
Yeah,
we have,
and I don't like what I did. This is one of these things when I rewatch the game. I don't like what I did here. I should have fought back harder in Europe, and I chose to fight in the Middle East a little bit instead, in order to minimize the impact of Nasser.
Okay.
But I'm almost sure I just scored Middle East before I did that. And I think I made a mistake here for sure.
I think you have to score the Middle East here. That's 100%. That's a no-brainer. You've got to score the Middle East. So
yeah, maybe. If you say it's a no-brainer, it's a no-brainer. I feel like. Of course, I have the advantage of knowing how this game goes ultimately, but I feel like that it was a mistake probably to not fight more in Southern Europe.
Okay, so if you had a 2-op,
but at the same time,
taking Greece would have made sense.
Yes, which I don't.
But you didn't. So you could have put 1-op in Greece, but I think I would have rather. Okay. Oh, and big 4-op to take Greece and Turkey,
right,
and beef up France. Wow. All right. So now Ted with 6 countries to your 4 in Europe.
Yes.
So seem like a man who's getting dominated in Europe.
Indeed, and that's what I'm saying is that I made the choice not to fight, and it was, I think, an error.
Okay. Now Ted in a little bit of a quandary. He obviously has to score Europe, which is what he's going to do right now. But he also needs to get his Milops.
Yeah.
And he wants to get blockade off, get D-stall into the deck.
That's what he wants to do.
He wants to do both of those things. You can only do one of them.
Yeah.
Now, you put 1 into Egypt, so you clearly aren't going to do the Nasser coup to deny Milops. You could space sock Govs here, punt the decision. Obviously, you're holding D-stall. Mm-hmm. What's your thought process here?
I decided to go ahead and space here. I was trying to I'm paralyzed as to what to do with Nasser here, but I know I need a space. I'll get the obligation out of the way and then see what he does. Yep. I anticipated he had blockade.
Yep. Okay.
And then I got lucky.
Yep. Good anticipation. Okay. So Ted rolls a 1 on his coup. That is a 3 VP coup though for Ted. So
I'm curious to see what you think about that. I decided that I would rather establish myself rather than moving into Libya by having which
much
I
better.
think is better.
Much prefer that. Yes.
Yeah.
Make him coup Egypt next turn. Mm-hmm. Okay, Ted picks up Asia. We get a defectors redraw and a containment redraw. This is an excellent containment hand here. Especially with blockade known in Ted's hand. But I guess we're discarding D-stall regardless.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Ted pointing out in the chat that it's not just a 3 VP coup to get on Panama, but essentially a 5 VP coup because it means you don't get one next turn. But okay, Ted redraws Europe, which I'm sure he's happy to see. He has a little bit of an issue with Asia. If he headlines the war and hits it, he can get Asia Dom off.
I was very sad to see Europe come back.
Yeah.
Kind of a dick move from Ted.
So Ted could headline Asia and get out of it. If he headlines
Why did I headline Middle East there? Don't know.
Middle East, I suppose, likely to get more likely to get worse than better.
Yeah, that's right. I was afraid that he was going to coup Egypt, and I wanted to avoid that situation.
Ted seems like a guy who's going to coup Panama. But you know that Ted has Asia. And so this is a problem for Ted here, because if he coups, you can then take Taiwan. And does that give you Dom? I believe that it does. Yeah, he's going to take a 3-op coup in Panama. Anything but a 1. There's the 1. So that's a couple of 1s.
I love the thematic I roll 6s, Ted rolls 1s at the beginning of this game.
Yeah. So containment here would have gotten you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ops, but you go with Middle East instead. Now this would have given you could have taken Middle East Dom here. Ted probably takes it back. Love that we play this game. Yeah. So 2 6s for you, 2 1s for Ted, and now this.
I started spreading around.
Okay, why not Taiwan here?
Don't know. God damn it.
So Taiwan gives you Asia Dom. Now you probably aren't scoring it anyway because your hand is not that great. Ted has China. He could have wiggled out of it, but he probably has to give you China if you go Taiwan.
Yeah, it's true. This is why you're better than me. I knew he had special there. I'm overprotecting there.
Okay. Yeah.
There was plenty of trash talk of Justin in the chat.
I hope so.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we spread around, went Angola. Okay, and Ted gratefully dumps Asia.
Yeah.
And Libya still available. Okay, gonna go Fidel. Now, Middle East scored, Libya less important. But I do like taking it. Now, you overprotected France. You overprotected the UK because you knew
I wanted to force into space, have to space special.
Yeah. So he might give I suppose he could give it, but yeah, you don't want him doing the poke. So Ted can get off Europe here pretty much at his leisure. So if I were Ted, I think you got to close off Algeria, even though there's not a lot of urgency there. Okay, he's going to take Libya. Mm-hmm. Neither player wanted Libya. Now, what do you want to hold to next turn? You've got defectors and containment here. What do you like better to hold?
I held containment there, I'm pretty sure. Is that right?
Either would be reasonable choices. Yeah. Okay, yeah, got to overprotect Angola. That makes sense. We have the ops here, so we can take Mexico. Probably want to maybe think about South Africa. If we're holding containment and spacing D-stall, although we're not spacing D-stall because we know Ted has blockade.
Yeah, blockade, yes.
Ted's got a score here. No reason to wait any longer.
Yep.
Okay. Ted picks up his 5 VPs. Jim is sad about that.
Yes, I believe you would have heard me smacking the table if I didn't have the volume all the way down when I was recording this.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, you would have had to go Canada and Benelux to stop that Dom, so Europe wasn't looking too good for you. Okay, you decided to space
but I didn't want to see the redraw.
AI war. You really didn't want to give up 2 more VPs.
Yeah, basically, yes.
Yeah. So AI war could have taken Mexico, perhaps gone Cameroon. Okay, Ted does space. Special misses on the roll. Ted yet again misses on his space roll. Okay, so defectors got to finish up taking Mexico, and the Cameroon play makes sense. Sad thing is we don't have the follow-up here. Ted knows we have D-stall. He does not know about containment. So Ted has got a 3-op. He clearly wants to take Algeria. And what else is he going to do? Yeah, that makes sense too. Okay, so you're going to be down 10 VPs here.
Yeah.
And you cannot hold containment, obviously. So you do have the follow-up because you spaced AI war.
Yep.
So you were not able to hold containment. So you're going to hold D-stall instead. Also makes sense. You don't want Ted drawing salt. But
No, but it's one of the this is a retrospect. Why the hell didn't I headline containment? Clearly better.
yeah, so
Lessons learned.
containment. Yeah, so containment would have gotten you some serious ops there. You probably would have wound up with Libya because Ted decided to coup Panama. And maybe you scored. Ted would have just put one in Egypt, so you weren't going to score that Middle East Dom anyway, but it would have gotten you some extra ops. But here we are, turn 4. Now, obviously, headlining Middle East saved you the 3 ops of containment, so it's really just 2 extra ops.
Yeah. Nonetheless, I think that as I look at that, I'm ahead in a couple other spots if I headline containment there. On the other hand, having containment on the deck's not the worst thing, but still.
Yeah. Now, CMC here is awesome. Containment would have been nice with this hand too, but CMC is excellent.
Yeah.
With South America empty, us in Panama. Ted's hand.
And then you'll notice also with Salt here, like my ability to potentially raise the DEFCON, and here's his second decall.
Yeah, so that's big for Ted. Now he could take a Thailand flip if he wants. So 1 Algeria, 1 Zaire. Now DEFCON is at 2, so he's not thinking about a coup. Southeast Asia is in his hand. I have to think this is a Thailand flip for Ted. 1 Nigeria, 1 Zaire for sure. Maybe 1 South Africa, probably not because it's very realignable. 1 somewhere else, maybe I don't know, maybe Laos.
I'm curious to hear what you have to say about the way that this hand played vis-a-vis Salt, because I take seriously the comments that I've heard you make a number of times on your streams about the value of playing Salt, so it's not in the deck later. I completely understand that, but I kept waiting for something that actually was worthwhile to bring back.
Yeah,
and
containment's your best pull at the moment. And
it's true, but it's just like it's not that
containment
great,
is not compelling.
So I'm sitting here waiting on Salt, and again with CMC already where it is, and my ability to coup without hit, and he can't coup back, then that's fantastic. But
Salt is great under CMC when your opponent can't lower DEFCON like that, but you also don't have a lot of places where you would want to coup. You have all 3 of the African 1-steps. Now, if he flips 2 of them over, then all of a sudden you're thinking, okay, I've got a couple of great coup targets, and Ted is not going to do the Thailand flip.
Surprised it did not go to Thailand.
And instead, just going to take an Africa Dom. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now you have realigns on Zaire and you have realigns on South Africa.
This will become a recurring theme, yes.
And so you.
But I just took that.
Okay, so go ahead and take a battleground stop Dom without having to roll the dice. Makes sense.
One thing that colored my perception of what was happening in this game is that before the game that morning, I watched the stream that when you commented on Ryan and Harib's game, and you kept talking about how Harib hates rolling dice.
Yes.
It absolutely affected me in this game.
Yep, he does not like doing that. But okay, so you decide not to realign. Ted, interestingly, didn't put 1 into Thailand. He did not put a decall up into Thailand, and instead just went for Africa, probably figuring that he was looking at a very ugly Africa scoring if he does not do the Thailand flip. So instead, he flips back Nigeria. Now you have the option to take your realigns if you want them, and I think that you do. Okay, decent roll there. Going to roll it +2. All right, you hit on that roll, so that works out for you. Now Ted's still with 3 battlegrounds to your 2. Now we'll see if Ted uses Alliance to flip Angola here, with it not overprotected. That would free up Portuguese somewhat, unless you wanted to flip it back. Interesting. Okay, going to take Vietnam. Yeah, it has to do it with. It definitely wants to take Vietnam before Southeast Asia.
Yeah. But this forced me to do a little overprotection.
Yeah. So you've got to overprotect Laos here for sure. So Ted with Alliance in his hand. It is 2 VP, so it is reasonable to space. Okay, you go 1 Burma, so Ted can't just take it with a 1-up. That makes sense. We'll see if Ted wants to take it with Olympic Games. Not particularly ugly as scoring for Ted. It's just 2. Ted up 11 VPs, but the other thing Ted is doing is that I haven't mentioned is Ted is distracting you a little bit in Africa, making you fight in Africa, and so what you're not doing is you're not getting into South America.
Yes.
Which I'm sure is what you'd rather be doing, but instead you're having to fight off Africa Dom, and that's probably why
He was
Ted
giving
did what
off
he did.
every sign that he had Africa scoring was the problem.
Yeah, if Ted flips Thailand there's not much you can do about it.
Nope.
But if he's fighting in Africa, you can fight there, so it's a little distracting. Okay, Ted's going to take Burma, helps with future IP wars. Makes sense. Go to space. All right, so you miss on that roll. You'll have another one coming up if you want it. Ted, I assume, would just score here. Oh no, he's gonna. Okay, got cultural. Maybe thinking about an Angola flip now. You also need your mill ops.
I do.
And Ted will not be getting that. Okay, Ted plays cultural for ops. Presumably, we're going to go with a Zaire flip. Little surprised by that from Ted. I would have gone Angola to stop the realigns, but so I'm a little surprised he did that. I think you can realign again, or you can not roll the dice and just use salt
That's
for
what
ops.
it was.
Yep.
And again, I kept waiting for Salt to give me some good stuff, and it never happened.
Yep. Yeah. No, there you go. There wasn't much there for you.
Yep.
So okay, you flip Zaire back over. Ted's gonna score. That's just a -1 for Ted. So that could have been a lot worse for him. You have the opportunity to double space here if you want it. Portuguese is very annoying. I'm a little surprised at this. Why not that? And that gives Ted Dom. Why wouldn't you just space Portuguese?
Yeah, I do a little experiment.
Okay,
from time to time. It happens,
Ted loves to do this too. That's why I let Ted drive whenever we play our team games.
Jeff
He
and I
likes
have
to
the
do a
same
little
thing.
different
He'll
things.
be
on
like,
the
"Don't
board.
do that," and I'm like, I want to see what it looks
Yes.
like.
Yep. So yeah, we will bury you or Portuguese can go to space. Okay, another miss on the space race.
Yeah.
Okay, now we have got a guilt-free Brezhnev. Okay, and so that prompts. Was that a bait to try to get Ted
It
to
was
event
not.
blockade?
It was not. It was. I did not think he was going to play blockade at this point. So I guessed wrong.
Okay, and so now you gave Portuguese, which flips over Angola. Now you do get your mill op, so that's two
Right.
VPs for you right away, but it does flip over Angola, and with it, Africa Dom. Okay, I'm a little surprised by that, but it is two mill ops, but mission accomplished for Ted there is that he was able to fight in Africa, fight very hard. He got Southeast Asia off for just one, and you did not get into South America. Okay, so a pretty decent hand here for you. Now, UN with Quagmire and OPEC is just 2. I don't know. This seems like a hand where we're not going to be able to hold Kennedy. Ted's hand is horrific. Wow. Okay, VOA, Grain, Panama, which is a huge problem for him. Missile Envy, which is probably his headline, given that We Will Bury You's gone. And he's going to get de Gaulle out of it, which is going to do nothing. Ted loves to headline Missile Envy. So
I was quite happy to see it.
Yeah. De Gaulle pretty useless here.
Yes, and I cannot describe how ecstatic I was when I saw Ted's hand.
Yeah. Oh boy. Okay, so you're going to see that disaster of a hand. Now Ted is going to have to. So Ted's got OAS and Panama, which is a huge disaster. He's also got Grain and Voice. He's got China, so he can play China. But he's going to have to let you into South America. So just as I was congratulating Ted for not letting you into South America last turn, he's going to have to let you in this time.
Yeah, and I thought that I'd made a mistake here, and in retrospect, I can't decide if I did, because I wrestled with the idea of opening up by playing Usuri and taking China to force more of those plays. But I decided in the end that him still having to hold 2 terrible cards was worth it to keep Usuri in the deck.
Yep.
But I still remain uncertain whether I should have just taken China.
Well, you had to play Missile Envy here on AR1.
Right. Yes.
So now the question for Ted here is, how does he want to use Brush War? Does he want to let you into South America quickly and then use Brush after that? Okay, Ted, we're playing this game. We keep playing this game. Ted's going to give up the 2 VPs. So Missile Envy, you can.
Well, he couldn't have the two. I could with CIA, so the two VPs were gone there.
Yes.
I couldn't headline.
Sorry, I mean, he gave the two VPs with Alliance,
Oh,
and he,
gotcha,
he wanted to
yeah,
make sure to
yeah,
give
yeah,
that
yeah,
before
yes.
it got worse,
Right.
is what I was trying
exactly,
to say, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so you could have realigned on Zaire, instead want to stop the Dom, and so now you have 3 realigned targets.
Yes.
So you have positive realigns on Nigeria, on Zaire, and in South Africa, even though you are down 4 battlegrounds to 1 in Africa. So Ted doing a good job fighting in Africa. Now, a coup of Cameroon stops 2 of those realigned threats, but South Africa still an issue, and Ted with absolute garbage ops, some problematic cards. Oh man, I don't know how I'm going to handle this if I were Ted. Ted still with a 6 VP lead, but South America is gonna be ugly for him. So the question is, what happens with that scoring? Can Ted get a brush war off in South America? Presumably, Ted seems like a guy who wants to let you into South America as late as possible, which I think makes sense. The Pope also is not nothing. Now, Warsaw is around. Okay, Ted's going to take a big old coup in Cameroon. Oh, my goodness. There's another one. I believe that is...
I think Ted comments on
3
this
coups
yeah, it was a lot
for Ted and 3
ones.
1. So he hit on the opening Iran coup.
But I couldn't hit either.
But yeah.
It was just a parade of incompetence with coups in Africa.
Yep. So 3 1s for Ted on his coups. All right, so Ted can now overprotect Zaire if he wants to, but it's still realignable. Cameroon, a very, very important country on this board. Meantime, you could theoretically UN Quagmire. You could give OPEC if you really need to. It's only 2. You could also use it as a 1-op and poke Libya to just make it 1. So you really don't have any problems here. You've got some guilt-free ops to fight back with.
Yeah.
But I think rather than fighting back, you would rather use said guilt-free ops to spread out in South America. Okay, Ted uses China. Not a particularly sexy use of the China card. Takes Cameroon, overprotects Zaire, get himself Dom back, and then overprotects the Koreas so you don't jam them. It makes perfect sense. So you were talking about your Usuri decision. Looking back at it, what do you think of the decision not to play Usuri and take back China instead of just take?
I remain a little uncertain. I feel like all it really does to his hand is it forces him to not be able to keep both Grain and Voice, or whatever 2 cards he ended up keeping here at the end. But he still has the extra one in his hand, and having Usuri remain in the deck for the late war, I think ultimately is worthwhile. But I'm not sure there's a right answer on that, or it just depends on how the cards play out. So I feel okay about the play ultimately, though at the time I was like, shit, I really should have forced Ted's hand a little bit more there. It's a hard call.
Yeah, and the 3 ops are not nothing either. And you also just got a big number in Cameroon, which was very helpful.
Yeah.
And Ted, he's got a brush, which I'm sure he didn't want to do.
Yeah.
That
was an upsetting result right there.
So Ted hits the brush in Angola to get Africa control, but I suspect Ted would have rather used it in South America.
There's no question about Panama.
Perhaps, though, he is thinking, you know what? I've got a chance to win this game if I can get an Africa control off before South America even comes.
Right.
And so maybe I go big in one region and hope it pays off. So now you have to be worried that Ted has Africa and is about to hang a Big Ten.
No, I knew his hand. Remember?
Oh, that's right. You don't. You don't have to be worried.
Right.
When I said you have to be worried,
yes.
You actually don't have to be worried at all. You, on the other hand, you have Kennedy, and now you are probably much more excited about holding Kennedy, but that means some awkwardness here with this hand. So I'm not sure it's worth it.
No, it didn't feel worth it in the end. I did not space this hand ultimately. I felt like I needed the ops, and especially I knew that the South America cards were unavoidable for him.
Yep. Yeah. So Ted could think
and
you
I was
have
willing
Africa.
To eat 2 points on OPEC because I felt like that was.
Yeah, 2 points. Yeah, it's not huge. So now you presumably want to realign Nigeria. That's clearly your best path to fighting in Africa.
Yeah.
And then you want to have ops free because Ted is presumably going to space Grain, hold Voice, give the Pope, and then on AR7 he's going to give Panama or OAS. And so you will want to make sure you have 3 guilt-free ops to spread into Brazil. But this hand, if you're willing to give the 2 with OPEC, this hand is nothing but guilt-free ops.
Yeah, that's basically right.
However, of course, if you want to hold Kennedy, that's not the case. Then that requires a little bit more hand management. So I think this is a pretty clear Nigeria realign. The question is what to do it with. So Usuri seems reasonable. Southeast Asia scored. Asia is scored. You could fight there if you wanted, but I think you would rather fight elsewhere. So you realigning with Usuri seems to make sense to me.
Let's see if it made sense to me.
Yeah. Ted says he has to run. Thank you for joining in the chat, Ted. We appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to watching the rest of this one. Enjoy roasting me for a PCR play, so I'm excited about that. All right, we got a few viewers here. It's on the upper end of that 6 to 9 number.
Oh, that's what I decided to do. I decided to fight there.
Okay, so you're going to...
Again, I was really dice averse.
Yeah. Well, it's reasonable. You know his hand sucks.
Yeah. That's right. That was my rationale, was that there was no way he had the ops to ultimately be able to fight back there, given...
Don't be bullied. Yeah. So you could have realigned, and if you didn't know his hand, you probably would have realigned. But the fact
that that was the rationale.
So he's gonna have to give the Pope like that, and then you can maybe cause some trouble for him in Poland. Now Warsaw is, I don't think it's, I believe it is in the discard pile.
That's
so
correct.
Could come in the late war.
Yeah. And Europe had been scored.
Yeah. So UN of Quagmire, and you're going to do the same thing. And this time, Ted cannot fight.
Nothing he can do.
Yeah. So Ted has no choice. He's got a space here. And so then you will take Algeria. Ted looking for a VP on the space track. Won't find it. There's a 6 for Ted. And now you have a couple of 3s, so you presumably want to take Algeria here.
And then wait to deal with South America, basically. It's pretty straightforward.
So you could space OPEC and save the 2, but I think you would even with Ted's hand the way it is.
I needed to take Algeria, and I needed to buttress South America.
Because you need to get into South America.
Yeah.
So Ted presumably is going to trigger Panama and then try a Hail Mary one-op realign is what I would think. But Ted might try a African coup or something else. But yeah, I don't blame you for giving up these 2 VPs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down pretty far here, obviously, but I need some regional comebacks in order to actually get back in the game. Yeah,
I think you've got to do this. This stops. So Ted now doesn't even have Dom in Africa, even though he's up 4 battlegrounds. So this one, where could this go? This could go Poland. I don't think you certainly don't want to go Colombia. Okay, Ivory Coast makes sense.
That's not what I did.
Guatemala might be my play. That might be a good play. Set up a presence-less central Dom.
That's what I did.
Oh, you overprotect. Okay.
Yeah.
Make sure Ted can't get a coup in, like an ABM coup.
Too scared of the break there.
Yeah, okay. And now Ted will trigger Panama, and then...
I cannot recall what he did.
So a coup in Saharan makes sense.
I think that's what he did.
Ted's got 5 countries to your 6. So a coup in Saharan rolling at least to 3 will give him Dom back in Africa. And he knows you are not going to want to respond with anything in Africa. You're going to want to obviously respond in South America. So that's reasonable. Or Ted could take the Hail Mary shot here and try to roll on Venezuela at -1. So he's going to go with the Saharan coup, presumably. Needs a 3. Wow, that's another 1.
Ted,
I believe that's
so many 1s.
4 1s in a row on coups for Ted. Okay, and here is a very nice hand. We've got ABM. Central is a great scoring card for us to have. And Ted picks up South America and no way in for himself. Draws more garbage. My goodness. Duck. Colonial. South America and Camp David and Sadat.
Yeah, Ted's mid-war hands here was
to go with South America, a bad scoring card. Whereas you pick up ABM and Central. So Ted, you're in a position here. Fidel's in the discard. You're in a position where you could potentially score Central control. You do not have to headline ABM if you don't want to. Although I guess it's bear trap here, but you don't want to bear trap him because you know he's holding on to voice. So you're gonna bear trap.
I did
him
bear
anyway.
trap because I would rather him discard voice than hold on to it through to turn 7. And then
That's
get rid of
true.
it.
That's true.
That was my rationale, is forcing him to, in the end, put that card back in the deck.
Yep. Yeah, and a good headline here from Ted just says, you know what, I'm going to eat my 4.
Yeah, he knew what.
And because that's not going to get
South
better.
America access cards
Yeah,
were.
and you knew Ted had VOA, but what you didn't know was that he had all these other terrible
Yes,
cards.
that's right.
So Ted dumps VOA successfully. So now you get a coup in Africa. I don't see why you'd do anything else. I think this is just a nice, easy coup of, I would assume, Zaire, because it's not realignable, and then you could ABM Nigeria later if you wanted to. Nigeria or Zaire is fine. I like Zaire. Oh, hey, there's a 1.
But we were both so inept in Africa. Our militaries were unacceptable.
Now we didn't. What I didn't say, and what the chat is saying, you should have dumped Gunman.
Yeah, you're right.
The chat is saying you should have dumped Gunman, but
so something hilarious happened here.
Okay.
This is this sort of awful mistake that I made. And it's not. It's like a real world mistake, which is Ted played NORAD, and I didn't see it.
Oh.
My family came home and my house was all crazy and loud, and so I was running around trying to get some headphones. I came back and I didn't notice it. I had no idea NORAD was active.
Oh no, because you could have gotten it. You could have, because you were playing ABM too. So if you filled Canada,
exactly, I would have filled Canada immediately, of course. But I did not notice, and so later when I filled Canada and NORAD triggered, I was like, "When the fuck did that happen?"
Yeah.
I absolutely had no idea that it happened.
Okay, so a gunman dump would have been interesting. You would have had to show ABM and a lot of trash here, so maybe not great. And so it looks like we're going to hold gunman to turn 7. You have the ops here for central control. So are we going to take it as the question?
Didn't do it, and it was a decision that I regretted later. But I felt reasonably good about what was happening on the board, and I was afraid of creating another. The Ortega.
The Ortega threat?
Yeah.
Especially with gunmen already in your hand.
Yes.
Okay, so Central is 3 now. If you wanted to fill it, giving up Che in Africa is a problem.
Right.
That's a serious problem.
Yeah, and that's the other issue, is I didn't have great ops to be able to fight very hard.
You would have to play China, presumably, if you want to fill up Cuba.
Mm-hmm. And I don't do that with lone gunmen in my hand.
So no, I don't think you can do that. So yeah. Okay, so Kitchen is 2. So maybe you're counting up battlegrounds here. Puppets was reasonable.
I didn't do this in the end.
Yeah, it's very reasonable to do it. 8 VPs is a lot of VPs. Mm-hmm. Of course, if he has libs after this, then you're like, well, what friggin' 3 ops do I use to deal with that? Now, we know he doesn't have it. You didn't know it at the time.
No, but generally, I think just the fear of what was going on with gunmen there.
Yeah.
So
you definitely want to puppet into Chile and Argentina. Now, you know he headlined South America, so you know he doesn't have Allende. Okay, you're just going to dump it for 3.
Yeah.
You've got Kitchen here, which can get you another 2. Puppets is an obvious event. I would assume Chile, Argentina, Saudi seems like a fine play. And then Che's bad. Che's a problem. So you probably are giving up South African. Or maybe you space both. You do have double space. Ted has problems of his own. He's got to give up Sadat. And is he going to take a coup in Africa? He's not. Oh, we've got to fix Poland.
Fix Poland.
Yep, got to fix Poland. Okay. Kitchen's still active for you. Presumably, it's close. So Kitchen here, Asia's even. Middle East is even. You're up 4 in the Americas, but down 1 in Africa. So you're up 2, it looks like, with Kitchen. Okay, so you do double space, and you hit the second roll. You did have to worry about one small step. Okay, yeah, Elon Musk joke. There we go.
I apologize.
Yep. Sure enough. Okay. Yeah, those were South African was basically an empty action round, but Che was a big problem. You couldn't give that. Yeah. Ted is got sock govs. Looking at a realign on Algeria. Oh,
Yeah, that was great.
okay. One roll and hits on the realign, and now just going to go ahead and clean out Algeria. Maybe thinking about NORAD.
Yeah. Yeah, it's possible.
So, okay, then he tries on Zaire at -2, and that didn't work out, but he didn't really have much other place to go. Okay, and you go Ethiopia, because you're fighting in Africa. You already have access to Saudi anyway, so that makes sense. And Ted has CRGs in his hand, but Africa unscored. Clearly, he's giving OAS here.
Yeah.
He does not even have a single
He made a crack on
point.
this.
Yes. Not even a single influence point in the Americas. But Ted, as bad as the Americas are, he's got. He only gave up 7 VPs there.
Yeah, it could have been way worse.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, and okay. Oh, hey.
So many ones.
There's another one for Ted. Okay, now here we go on turn 7. Defectors is a redraw, isn't it?
So that was a mistake.
And we haven't seen Junta here.
Yes, and I knew he had Junta, but I thought the Defectors was not a redraw. I was too lazy to go back and look, so I should have defected Junta, but did not in the end. In the end, I played Nuclear Subs.
Okay, so Ted actually gets quite a good hand here. He gets Junta, he gets Purge. Flower Power gets one small step as well. EEU to harmlessly dump before the late war. He also gets Africa. And so Ted does not, because we saw Defectors turn 3. You did not headline it.
That's right. It was a mistake on my part. One of many.
Okay, so Ted now knows
that said, Nuclear Subs was a reasonable card for me here in the end.
Yeah, so Nuke Subs makes sense.
But with my knowledge of Junta, I had fully owned up to that mistake.
Yep. So Ted doesn't know about Defectors, but he knows about the entire rest of this hand. And this hand is not very good. It's not terrible, but it's not very good either. Now, Nuke Subs is a good headline, and that probably is great because it will prompt Ted to score score Africa quickly.
Yes, remember I knew he had Africa,
and not fight for Dom.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do not. Yeah, he's not going to want to spend the entire turn fighting for Dom. Okay, so Junta, this is what? Ours is just Argentina, coup Argentina, I assume, for Ted. And if he can get a roll, then take Chile. Okay. Oh, 6! Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness, what a roll. Did everyone see that? Ted with a 6. All right, and now a big 4-op, presumably to take Chile, I would think. Even though you've got Nuke Subs, you can get a coup off in Africa. It's not going to change the domination situation. Will cost Ted 2 VP, but Ted probably figuring that Chile is more important than 2 VP. Oh my goodness, another 6.
All around
so now an immediate dump of Africa from Ted. Don't even think twice about it. He'll pick up 1 VP from Africa. He was hoping for more. But okay, but now Ted instantly even in South America. So now I look at this board, and you're behind in Europe. Asia's even, although we still have Formosan in play. Middle East is even. Africa's pretty even. South America's even. It's Central where you could get some big VPs, but only if you're willing to fill Cuba. And now, obviously, Fidel back into the deck.
Right.
So, okay. So you've got Allende now, which is relatively free. Ted knows you have it. Independent Reds could be an interesting event here. I don't hate that event. Shuttle also could be an interesting event with the Asia situation.
To give me Middle East,
but just taking an honest Middle East dom is probably better, especially with Formosan in effect. Mm-hmm. So Libs is going to get Ted into Cuba. Yeah, 2 Mexico, 1 Cuba. Force you to fix right away.
Yes, and this is again the dice aversion here because do I coup Mexico back or not? And I opted not.
No,
to
you definitely don't want to. Yeah, you gotta just refill. And Independent Reds with with Europe the way it is, independent reds means you're one op away from stopping Dom. But I understand you don't want you kind of need the ops here. Mm-hmm. Mexico's a more important country than Romania.
It is.
Willie is now also Willie not really an issue. You've already got West Germany overprotected, but obviously you don't want to give up the VP. You guys are kind of jockeying for position here on the VP track, thinking about war games, thinking about reformer. But this is a close game heading into the late war.
Yeah, and it will stay so.
Not sure who I'd rather be. I think I'd slightly rather be you, but then again, you having a known gunman in your hand,
right.
China or no,
yeah.
And defectors about to be gone for good, maybe tips me toward Ted a little bit. Okay, Ted gonna fill up Cuba. That makes sense. So now all of a sudden you still have an advantage in Central, but right at this moment it would score for 0. Oh God, Max is talking about sticking the willy somewhere important, and so yeah, Max loves talking about slapping his willy on the table here. So that's what he wants you to do. I think you could send your willy to space here to save the VP.
That is absolutely what I did.
Yeah.
I'm surprised in such a highbrow community there would be so many jokes about
yes,
willies.
highbrow.
It's shocking.
Yes. Highbrow is the exact word I'd use to describe it. Hey, big 5 on a meaningless coup of Guatemala.
It had meaning.
Okay, so you've got a kind of... Okay, so Allende is pretty free. Okay, setting up real lines in Cuba makes sense. C5 also could go into Israel. I believe Israel is the last battleground on the board, as it often is, to be taken.
It's so funny to look at the complexion of this and remember that fucking NORAD is active, and I just didn't do it.
Yeah. It is just sitting there.
I blame my family.
Yeah. It's just sitting there.
Yeah.
So you've got 4 ops left. You can space, I think, space Willie probably, and then a filling up of Israel makes sense. Although it doesn't change the domination situation in the Middle East, you could be using it as a coup in Central.
It's there's.
Ted with one small step, which I don't think he wants to trigger here. Ted definitely wants to trigger EEU here. Yeah, he's going to coup Nicaragua.
He beat himself up about this later. That he didn't play one small step.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he could have triggered it at space, and then well, he would have. You got to get EEU out of your hand.
That's right.
On AR7. So yeah, he would be holding CRGs. But yeah, Star Wars situation now very much in play. One small step could have been invented. Okay, and there's the coup, and so you do get the roll, reestablish Central Dom. And I think this has to be... No, he's just going to space. Okay, so he is going to hold EEU to the late war. Uncomfortable, but you do want to get rid of... It's a bad card in your hand. Now you can get rid of it. EEU obviously still spaceable. And there goes the Willy into space. So now you will have headline peak. Oh, my goodness. Okay, this is a monster.
Yeah, monster hand.
This is a monster.
I took a long time here because Ted is going to play cultural to steal the China card, and I took the longest time deciding whether or not to dump Lone Gunman, which I did ultimately, and was correct. But nonetheless, when you look at the headline options here, it's painful to have had to do it.
Yeah.
Which proves the point in the chat that I should have done it last turn. But regardless, I took a long while wrestling with this.
Yeah, it's a tough decision. Now, Ted's hand, he's got some ops here, but he's got a couple of scorings. And Nixon's a little bit annoying VP-wise. Doesn't want to give up 2 VPs in Central, then 2 more VPs for Nixon, and then space to get you to War Games territory. You, on your part, you've got terrorism, which is great. Hostage crisis is a huge problem for you, though, anyway, even with terrorism in your hands. So that's obviously a must space.
Yep.
SOC Govs is whatever. He's just an empty AR. And then you've got Grain and Voice, along with Duck for VPs if you want it. But yes, Gunman is an issue. So... with terrorism, you in your hand, you only have to worry about Aldrich, and that has to be a scary headline.
That's exactly it. I'm sitting here and staring at terrorism, thinking, do I want to take this risk? Because this is a devastating hand against Ted if I do the right thing, but I had to play it safe ultimately.
Yeah, so if you don't dump Gunman, a coup and Aldrich is GG. And I can understand Ted having Aldrich and not, and he could have Aldrich and just doesn't want to show it to headline.
He knows that I have Gunman, so there's no doubt.
It's headlining Aldrich into headline.
In the end, it's kind of a no-brainer decision, but it took me a while. I beat myself up about it for quite a bit, trying to make up my mind whether it was right.
Yeah, so let's think about your other options.
It's really Grain or Duck.
Would be Grain, I think.
Grain is always kind of the default. Duck is a pretty good headline here, though.
So Grain probably would have been a coup on Libya. I think.
Yes.
No, you're not cooing Argentina with it sitting there at 4. And I don't think you want to allow a coup in Mexico. So I think it would have to be a coup. Yeah. Ted knows that you have Gunman. It's time to dump it.
Had to do it.
You had to do it. Yeah, I can understand that with that cultural play. Too many ways to die. Yeah. Aldrich is out there. Now it's a conservative play, but a conservative play is not necessarily the wrong one.
Just with the quality of the hand that I had here, I felt like I could sort of start to take control of the game a little bit, and so leaving that risk out there was just too high.
Yeah. Now Ted, for his part, has got he's got some ops with which to deal with your VOA. Now, I guess VOA is most problematic here in Libya, where he has to. Yeah, Ted's right. You had to do it. Libya right now is the only place where VOA can knock you out.
It's not a particularly effective VOA right now, which is why
it's more it's more just annoying. Okay, and Ted is going to take a big coup in Mexico. Oh my goodness,
that was the single luckiest moment of the game. I mean, we both had some bad luck here and there, but that was a rough one.
Yeah, that's horrific. So now Ted, if Ted flips that over, all of a sudden he's got Dom in Central. Now you can take Dom back if you want to by going Costa Rica or Honduras, which are two very weird countries to take. But I think it's
Costa Rica's not that weird. That's also brush protection.
Yeah, little brush protection. And that's got to be annoying for Ted, who was hoping to dump Central for 0. And he knows it's only going to get worse. Yeah, so he dumps it for 2 for you. Iran-Iraq War is a problem if that gets pulled with Grain as well. I'd be wanting to get rid of that as soon as I can if I were Ted. You do not want to lose that war. It's like you can
see the future, Justin.
You do not want to lose that war. Iran-Iraq War also could flip Iran and even up the Middle East.
Yeah. So,
wow. Somebody saw what was coming. So
the one in Mexico is made up for right here.
Okay. So he misses on the roll.
Yeah, because that's a huge play if that succeeds.
We'll get roasted for not eventing in one small step. Yeah, it's a tough call. Eventing it like that to not get any VPs is always a hard thing to do for the USR. Again, it would have looked great. You got Grain and Voice.
Right.
If Ted gets Grain and Voice this turn, all of a sudden he's a genius.
Yeah, that's true.
Ted would be in huge trouble if he was the one who got Grain and Voice, but instead you got it. And then if you wouldn't have been able to headline Gunman if you had and so I guess that's what Ted was thinking is he wanted to stop Headline Peak since you had the known Gunman, which makes Headline Peak obviously much stronger. But okay, we will see how much that ends up mattering. You could have just given SOC-Govs no problem. In fact, really no problem because, although no, never. Ted's going to give Iron Lady here, presumably. And SOC-Govs should be a guilt-free 3.
But the problem is that he knew that I had SOC-Govs.
Yes, that's right. So Ted's got a space.
Yeah.
EEU. And now he's got.
So here's where I'm wrestling a lot with, do I play terrorism here, but I don't know what it's going to get out of it, what problematic cards get out of his hand. As I look at it now, I think terrorism would have been a fairly useless play, and I'm glad that I didn't do it in the end. But I made the decision here, basically, I was going to hold Voice just to the end. depending on at least on what
Yeah.
happens, because I just didn't feel like there was anything particularly effective here.
Yeah, and that is your best bet. Now, obviously, Aldrich could show up
Sure.
in his hand or yours. You know, you obviously you get Aldrich. You know, makes it tougher to hold the card. You don't want you hate to space Aldrich as the
Yeah, because you
USA.
get rid of a problematic card. But it's not,
But
I
yeah,
got to take that gamble.
yeah, VOA right now.
But it just doesn't.
It's
do
just
anything.
you're taking him out of Libya and then
But
to
I
somewhere else
already
that he's
had-
just
I already
repairing.
had the Middle East,
Yep,
and so it's like, what's
exactly
really
right.
doing for me? It's like,
Yep, you have Middle East Dom. It's
Yeah.
not changing the domination situation. Okay.
This was a great play by Ted.
Yeah, Ted loves the jammy jam
Yeah.
in Japan.
I was looking at it, hoping it didn't happen, and then he did it.
And a very important jam too, because that changes the domination situation. Ted with 7 countries now in Asia to your 5. So,
And again, this is the advantage of him knowing my hand. It makes that jam all the more effective.
yep. Now Suck Govs is a little bit of a whatever for you. Not a huge problem because you've got your countries are overprotected. Yeah. Oh, and did you notice it now? Is this when you noticed it when
Nope.
you took one out of Canada?
Nope. I have to emphasize how chaotic it was in my house at the time. It tells me I should only play someplace where none of the rest of my family is at. And this play made me sad.
All right. So Ted now with Iron Lady. Argentina is well spoken for.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, and yeah, certainly gonna contest Japan there, and Ted gonna hold on to Nixon. Ted down 4 VPs. Ted needs Europe to come. He needs Middle East not to. Muslims is around. Hostage crisis and II war are gone. Oh, and there's Middle East. That's just what you need, and another very strong hand for you. Brush and Missile Envy. And containment comes back.
Yeah.
After we decide not to headline it twice, we get it a third time.
And yet, I did not headline it here either. But I had to make a reactive play based
Yeah,
on what he
this
did.
isn't a great containment hand. You've got some events here. You got
Exactly,
some scoring.
that's exactly right. But
Containment lets you space Marine barracks, but
it's true, but it's not that consequential.
your
And so,
spacing Che is just as good.
yeah.
Okay, Ted with a nice hand as well.
Mm-hmm.
OPEC is just 2, but that can head off war games. ABM is strong. What is ABM? That could just take Japan, perhaps. Just get that done and out of the way. You've got...
So I stared at Chernobyl for a while here, but there's really no good place to use it. And in the end, there was enough red op 4s that red 4-ops that I felt like Missile Envy's the right gamble.
Yeah, so Brush is good, but it can wait.
It can
VOA,
wait.
he knows you have.
Yeah.
That can also wait. Yeah, I think Missile Envy is the play here, especially with Headline Peak. You don't have to worry about a Cal situation and losing the game here. Obviously, you pull
Yeah,
Cal.
I mean, I had
fine.
been mulling it, but once
Yeah.
he played ABM, it felt like basically
Yeah,
a no-brainer.
couple of turns here where Headline Peak is important. So Ted's going to
There's
get...
no doubt.
And so, yeah, Ted losing out on stopping Headline Peak could be very huge here. So, yeah, Ted may want to just go Japan, but then you're going to get a 4-op, and you'll get a coup if you want it, or you will get a jam if you don't. But I think, yeah, Ted's got to be sad about this, knowing he's giving up a 4-op. Though I don't think. I think you just take Japan here. If I were Ted, take the Dom and make you react to that. But we will see.
I'm trying not to have too many spoilers, See what happens
yeah.
here.
Well, yeah. So you know what happens. I don't know what
Yes.
happens. I'm telling you. I'm trying to get inside Ted's mind.
Yeah, and you know Ted better than I do.
Ted
so-
likes to fight in Asia. Ted loves to fight in Asia. Ted also doesn't have any scoring cards in his hand, and Asia is unscored. Getting a big number in Asia would be huge for him here. Of course, he's going to be sad when he sees Middle East show up.
Mhm.
Ted also picks up D-Stall, which isn't going to do much of anything for him. Basically, just he coups Pakistan. That's very interesting. Okay, so kind of leaving Japan where it is.
But Pakistan means that playing Japan is a little less valuable for me because Asia. I mean, I have China, but
Now, yeah. So Ted now with 8 countries in Asia. So you need to.
yeah, Asia's looking bad.
Yeah, yeah. So you could take back Japan, but it's not going to solve the domination
Doesn't
situation.
really, no.
Then Ted can get a coup, presumably in Africa, since he's only got 2 ops. But yeah, even taking Japan, Taiwan, and Philippines doesn't stop Dom. You have to flip back Pakistan, and one of those things.
Yep.
So you might, yeah. So this seems like a situation with that role that you just decide, well, Asia's just not going to happen.
That was basically my rationale. There was I just don't think I can win this fight.
Yeah. The problem is,
So I attempted, and just Africa.
Yeah,
so
that's
many
a bad.
tries.
That is
so many tries.
That's a bad miss. And Ted only had 2 ops to respond, so even just getting 1 in there would have been enough. Now
Yes.
Ted can put both those ops back in Angola and maintain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he puts 1 there.
Which made more sense.
And okay, so he puts 1 in Angola, so you could flip it here if you wanted. Doesn't over. So if you
It had been scored.
yeah, so you could have used Pakistan to take China to take. Excuse me, use China to take Pakistan, and then you would have set up a fight for Japan. Instead, Ted overprotects Pakistan, puts the 1 in Angola,
Which seals my fate in Asia,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. Yeah, an IP war is not going to help you there. Okay, so you're going to take 4 with the thought that Ted.
Now he has to start playing like I have war games.
Yeah, Ted has to worry about war games. So this is presumably going to be OPEC for 2, I think. Unless Ted's going to play, if he has it, he has it. But I think this game is too close for that. I think Ted's got to take his 2 VPs. Yeah, that's exactly what he's going to do. And now you can do the Angola flip if you want. You can put ops back into Japan.
Yeah, I just continually wrestled with Japan here, but Asia was. I mean, that was
So
the.
you're going to do neither. And Ted
But
now
that puts him in war games.
yeah,
territory.
Ted now at the point where he cannot stop war games. You obviously you don't have it, but Ted can't stop war games, so he probably will. Ted also with SAU in his hand, so probably wasn't all that worried about Angola getting flipped. Okay, gonna take a coup. Okay, wants arms race.
That's right.
That makes sense. Ted wants to get arms race off. Okay, now you do the flip,
Yeah, I take Dom.
and then you're gonna be sad.
I'm gonna be sad when arms race happens. That's right.
Well,
of course, I knew that.
no, SAU first.
Oh, well, that's true. That's true. But I was sad about arms race
Yeah.
too, though. I mean, I didn't
Yeah.
have war games, so.
Yeah. And then a brush in Argentina makes sense too. Huge roll coming up. And 1. There you go.
Ted
JR.
was not the only person who rolled a lot of 1s there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, SAU to quickly flip Angola back. Containment's going to flip it back again. And then D-Stall might flip it back again. Angola is an incredibly important country here. Now, you could use VOA, I guess, but I can see why
Except
you
that all it
wouldn't
does is it just puts him in a position to take it back. I mean,
Yeah.
it still felt like the end of game VOA was more powerful than whatever I could accomplish
Yeah.
here, basically.
Yeah, okay. So, Marine Barracks is just an easy fix of...
Yeah, and I didn't do that. I should have.
So you can fix up Israel. You can go 1 Lebanon,
But
1 Israel.
Middle East had just been scored, and so I didn't do it.
Okay, okay.
So I was going to fight there, and then, bleh.
Yeah, you can tell JR a little more. Okay, special, not really a big deal at this moment. So Ted can put 2 back into Japan. It's not really going to fight you for Dom in the middle, try and fight off Dom. You'd have to take Lebanon and Syria, but then even then you just take Israel and Jordan, you still have the Dom, so not a big deal there. Muslims is around. Okay, Ted finally overprotects Angola. Did you realize it now?
I think this is where I realized it, yes.
Teardown is around, but not much less effective if France does not have any blue influence in it.
Yes.
But now, I'm not saying you should do this, but 1 Canada, 2 Benelux does stop Dom.
Again, you're seeing the future.
Jordan's important, but can wait.
Mm-hmm. That was definitely that. I looked over here and then I saw.
Yeah.
I saw and I was like, oh my God, how long has that been active?
Okay, so you are up 6. You've got Dom in central for 2. Ted's going to space that. Is he going to stop headline peak? He will. Okay, and there you go. You're going to stop Dom. Okay, so we move on to turn 10. You're up by 6. You have Dom in central, so that's 2. And then Ted with Dom in Asia, which looks like that's 6 for him. Everywhere else on the board's pretty even. Well, you're ahead in the Middle East. Okay, your hand very ops heavy. Does Ted get Aldrich? He does not.
No Aldrich, no Asia.
He does not get Aldrich. He does not get Asia. No Europe either. So your regions score. Ted's regions do not. And then Ted also has Cal and Star Wars in his hand, which is a problem. So Ted, if you had been forced to hold Gunman, you would not have been able to hold Voice. Ted does get Salt. He does get War Games, but a couple of DEF CON issues here for Ted. I certainly like your position better. Also, Muslim could have been very important for Ted, and now it's going to be safely spaced.
That's right.
And you will be able to get off that AR7, turn 10 AR7 VOA. I'm always afraid to hold Voice from turn 8 all the way to turn 10, figuring it's just going to get Aldrich away. I might as well use it at the first opportunity.
Believe me, I wrestled with it, but at the same time, it's such an overpowered finish to the game that it just seemed. And so this, in the end, was just a straight-up North Sea headline.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you go North Sea, and that North Sea is pretty good. And VOA just essentially flips one battleground if you use it before the end of the game. It just flips Libya. That's it, which isn't going to change the domination. But at the end, so powerful. And obviously
he has to alter his entire game plan around it, basically. And so it just made more sense. I get the risk. I absolutely do, but it paid off for me here.
Okay, so Ted's going to go with a D-Stall headline. D-Stall would have gotten him Europe Dom if you tried to sneak a Europe headline in, but Europe doesn't come. Asia doesn't come. So what's this going to do? Is this going to, I guess it goes Israel, at least a couple into Israel. Where does it pull from? Maybe one out of France, maybe one out of Algeria, probably a couple out of Guatemala would be my guess. Maybe one out of Argentina. So he could take Israel, but he obviously is going to want a coup here. Ted's hand is not bad.
No. Aside from 2 unplayables.
Yeah. He also could play Cal here. He could trigger Cal.
Pretty risky to give up 2. I mean, he knows I don't have war games, but I mean, this game, as the board is so close that the 2 points matter.
Yeah. And he knows he's getting dominated in the Middle East in final anyway. Okay, going to take a coup in Africa. Oh, and finally there's
the NORAD point, baby.
So what's NORAD?
So this is really this game was so close, and it's easy to forget. I think that if you don't, most Twilight Saga players did not have the opportunity to play a ton of turn 10 really close games.
Yeah.
And so each of the decisions is really difficult.
The chat wants to see Angola and a flip.
But Africa had been scored and Europe had not, and I did not know whether or not Ted had it.
Yeah, this is reasonable too.
I mean, I get it, but
make Ted fight.
I mean, if he has Europe, then I'm in serious trouble.
Yeah, and now Ted's going to retake it, and that gives him Dom. Now you've got to stop that Dom, presumably. Are we taking Denmark here? You can't let Ted have this Dom, and you can let him have it in final, and you should be fine. but you cannot let him have it, and you can't let him score it this
He
turn.
can't have it twice. He
Yeah.
can't have 10 points. Yeah.
Ted does not go into Israel, presumably because he knows about VOA, and so knows that just one op is going to stop Dom. It is going to give you Dom as long as you take Jordan. So he wants to keep you fighting there in Europe. And so Ted at this point is hoping you have Europe. What's Korean War going to do? Just overprotect? Yeah, Ted has to defend VOA and hope you have his scorings, which you don't. So yeah, now I think I'd take the opportunity to space, if you have to space here. If you're going to play China, so you can hold I guess you could hold... Suez is not great for you here. Muslims obviously is a problem.
Remember, I'm only holding one because I played North Sea, and so.
Oh, that's right. So you will want to space.
So I have to space. I have to space Muslims.
Yeah, you will want to space.
It was this sort of great internal debate about whether or not to give Suez or Pershing.
Yeah.
Because the point from Pershing is no joke, but I also don't want to set up a situation where he can take Israel.
Yeah. Yeah, North Sea is huge here, and especially he's going to have to give you Kennedy.
Yeah, but I'm not.
You didn't know that, and obviously you weren't going to.
You'll see. There's no chance that
you wouldn't discard the Kennedy because you know you're going to play
risk
voice.
Drawing Europe.
Yeah, you don't want. Yeah, you don't want to risk drawing a scoring.
Yeah. Here's where my computer froze up.
Okay, so you are
my
at this
computer,
point.
My screen froze up. I had to close the app, and everyone gets a good picture of my dearly departed dog here.
Well, there you go. Thank you for. Hey. Okay, it is as if you were stuck in Bear Trap and just using the exit the game strategy to reset the dice.
Right. But nonetheless, I was getting a little worried about time here, so I was not particularly happy about that. It was increasing my stress levels quite a lot.
Yeah, so you have 7 minutes left, Ted with 12 minutes left. Okay, so a lot of overprotecting being done. Ted knows you have VOA, wants to cause you problems in Europe.
Yep.
Ted's got a space Cal. No surprise there. Will it hit? It will not. So now Ted has to give you Kennedy. Okay, well, you hit your space roll, making that a moot point, so he's got to hold on to Star Wars. Decall is not that great here, I don't think, because he already dominates Africa and Asia.
Yeah, it's decent voice protection, which is what he ultimately did when he does play it here in a minute.
Yeah.
But this takes time, these last couple plays.
Yeah, Ted also, you also rather, not Ted, you need mill ops. Mm-hmm. So, okay, you've got 4 more ARs. So clearly you're going to play China, you're going to play Brezhnev on AR7.
Right.
Or you're going to play voice AR7.
7, yeah. No, it's China, Brezhnev, voice at the end.
Yeah. Okay. So Pershing is just pretty much an empty AR.
But I was pleased actually to see Reagan there because it made up for the point I lost from Pershing.
So yeah, you've got to fix all of those.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're gonna go. Okay, you really didn't want him to take. I'm a little surprised you put that one in Israel. I don't think you need it there because you was just one in the Middle East. Right? It's fine.
Well, no. If he takes Israel, then I lose that Dom.
Well, yeah. I mean, but VOA will one. I just
it's true, but I need to be able to set up VOA in a lot of different places in order to make this work. It's not just a matter of Middle East only.
That's true. Okay, so you don't want him taking Israel.
Yeah. This ends up being me taking quite a long time trying to calculate how to do this, and this is what I was speaking to earlier. Like, players who are at your level and not at my level have a much more automatic sense of the right thing to do here, I think. But I'm sitting here staring at China like, where do I jam these ops in order to maximize? You know, because I was not happy to see this because even though it doesn't do a ton, I don't really know why he went there. That didn't really do anything.
Yeah, Malaysia is not. That doesn't do much. But I guess his other battlegrounds were all overprotected.
Yeah, Ted is so overprotected in all these places in Africa that I'm obviously pretty stressed about this. I took a while deciding what is the most effective, because I have to play China here, right? I'm not going to give him the extra point for Brezhnev. So I spent a lot of time thinking about where is the place that I can fight the most here, and I gave myself a chance ultimately.
Yeah. So you have four. You have 4 countries in Asia. Malaysia would be 5. Ted has 8. So it's pretty. 8 country count in Asia is pretty decided. Now you do need to take Jordan. VOA can't help you take Jordan, so that's important.
Yep.
So you probably want to do that. You obviously need to
I'm
do
aware of this
SAR
play.
next.
Yes, where I'm trying to calculate is how can I balance out the fact that I'm not going to be adding influence on my last turn. I'm going to be taking his away. What do I need to set up in order to make that happen?
Yeah. Okay. So let's look at the board. You're up 6. Well, really 4 because you're not going to get your mill ops here. So you're up 4, and Africa is -4 for you. Africa's -6 for you right now. Europe is -5.
Yeah.
So that's 11. Asia's another 6, so that's 17 for Ted on the board. Ted's going to wind up with China, so that's 18 for Ted. Conversely, you have, again, call it 4 plus 2 in Central, so that's 6. So right now, it's Ted by 12 is what I'm showing. Now, however, you have voice. You are 1 op away from taking Middle East Dom for another 2. You are 1 op away from stopping Europe Dom for 4. And then obviously VOA in final. So Ted way up here, but you have a lot you can do.
Yeah, and this is exactly the math that's running through my head at the time, trying to calculate exactly how this works, and so much ultimately depends on what Ted does in his last turn.
Yeah.
Because I knew where I was going here, basically, with Brezhnev and voice.
Yeah.
Thought about it. Didn't do
Okay, so...
Didn't change anything. So that's not what I did.
Yeah, Pakistan Jam doesn't do much for you because Ted can just repair. Oh, okay. Okay, so you're going to double break Poland to stop Dom and force Ted to repair that. Okay.
And with all respect to Ted, Ted makes a mistake here because what he should have done, obviously I didn't discard, is to double protect Poland.
Okay, so he could have double protected Poland, but if he had, you can still stop Dom with just 1 op, right?
What do you mean?
Can't you stop Dom with just 1 in Denmark?
Oh, I can, yes, but given how close this game is, even the 2-point swing there matters.
Yeah. So it's 2 ops for 2 VP instead of 1 op for 1 VP there. Yeah. And now, okay, so now for you, a Cuba break is huge.
Yes.
So Ted goes, presumably, obviously has to fix Poland. And then where else is he going to go? Ted knows you've got 1 ops play left, and then you have voice. Ted could actually go 1 Jordan, which would be annoying for you.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways I think that Ted could have made my life a little bit harder here, and that's not me shitting on Ted. Ted's a great player, but in the end, I think the decision that he made here, which was to overprotect countries in Asia.
Ted is saying he go 1 Poland, 1 Jordan, 1 Dominican. Okay, no, he's going to overprotect in Asia.
But the problem was that I couldn't do anything about Asia.
Yeah, you had already played China.
Right.
So I'm a little surprised because... Ted could have gone 1 Dominican, because now a poke of Cuba is 2 for the battleground, but also... Oh, no, it's just 2 for the battleground. Dominican would have stopped Dom. Okay, so now the board, again, Ted plus 5 in Europe, Ted plus 6 in Africa, so that's 11, Ted plus 6 in Asia, so that's 17, plus 1 for China, that's 18 for Ted. You are plus 4 because you're not getting mill-ops. Or maybe you are.
I'm not. I thought about it. Didn't do it.
You're plus 4 on the board.
Just did a little more.
Plus 2 in Central. And so that's 6. So you're down 12. So you've got to make up 13. You've got to find 13 VPs.
The key issue is I'm doing all this math with 1 minute and 2 seconds left.
Yes. Oh, you've got to find 13 VPs in a minute.
Yeah.
So a poke of Poland is 5. But Poke of Poland is 5. And then Jordan. Yep, Poke of Poland and Jordan is 5, and then that's another 2 in the Middle East. So that's 7. And then you don't have a non-battleground in South, so this is clearly one. It's clearly one Cuba, which is 2 VPs. Can you stop Africa Dom as well? You can. Okay, 3 and okay, stopping Africa Dom and then the 2 in Cuba is good enough. Wow, what a finish!
It was a hell of a game. I mean,
what a finish! 1 VP in final. Okay, so if Ted had overprotected Poland instead of overprotecting Asia, he could wow, yeah. So you had 3. So your VOA was 2 in Cuba, 3
out of Africa.
3 non-battlegrounds in Africa.
Yeah.
That was only a 5-point VOA.
So it was, I mean, that was where I was wrestling with that coup. Like, do I coup here to get the mill-ups? But the point swing was undeniable in Europe.
Yeah. And then what about? So also could have stopped Middle East presence, which would have been
1, 2, 3. I didn't even think about that. What is the?
Looks like I think it would have been 5. So I think it's the same.
It's the same,
right? Because Iraq, he had. It would take. You had Dom already with Jordan, so Libya's 1, Iraq is 2, and then presence is 3. So it would have been the same 5.
Yeah.
Everything else was overprotected, but yeah, Cuba. Cuba was big, so you could have done. You could have gone 1. If he didn't overprotect Poland, so you could have gone 1 Cuba with Brezhnev. No, you had to go Jordan with Brezhnev.
I had to. You had to go Jordan.
Yeah, so you had 2 left.
That's why I'm staring at the board thinking about that coup, but recognizing that it doesn't make sense. The point swing is way too big.
That's right. You had to go 1 Jordan with Brezhnev, so you had 2 ops left. Mm-hmm. So if you had gone 1, you could have gone 1 Denmark, but then you really didn't have a place for that last 1 op. Unless was there a place in Africa you could have gone?
I was too far down, I think. I mean, possibly, but there's also the extra point from Poland there, which matters. That ended up mattering.
So I guess if Ted overprotects Poland instead of Asia, that probably winds up a tie.
Yeah, that's right. I was as watching back and doing this again. You watch this game and I'm like, oh god, look at all the mistakes that I made. So many mistakes, but I was quite pleased with how I played the last 3 turns. I felt like I got exactly. Obviously, I won by 1 point. I managed to do pretty much the only thing I could do to get there.
Yeah, you did just enough.
Which I was proud of.
Just enough.
Yeah. If only I did it in NORAD.
Yeah. Well, that was a heck of a game.
Thanks, Justin.
Thank you for coming over to do this one with me. I hope the viewers enjoyed it. So yeah, before we wrap up, any final thoughts on this one, Jim?
No, it was a great game. I really enjoyed. I mean, again, it's a humbling experience to watch, especially sitting with the revered Twilight Struggle Jesus.
Yeah, sure.
But it was really, really fun to do all this. I have to say that knowing that I was going to do this probably diminished the quality of my play. I was thinking about the broadcast of this game during the game, which is never a good thing.
Okay. You were thinking about how others would react to your plays rather than what you thought was best.
If you guys roasted me in the chat, you can burn in hell.
Exactly. That makes sense. All right, folks. Well, that's going to do it for our coverage of this game. Once again, Jim Haefele rhymes with safely, a 1 VP victor over Ted Livermore in final scoring. Truly a classic one, so I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to the players for both sending the videos. Thank you to Anton Scott for giving us the ARZ treatment and allowing us to see both hands at once. And thanks most of all to you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this game as much as we enjoyed bringing it home to you. But until next time, for Jim Haefele, this is Justin Abramson signing off for now. That was fun, but now it's done. So long, everybody.